We are back live on Michigan Sports Radio in the Huddle. Nate Wangler alongside Jackson Hayden. And Jackson, I know we just gave our breakdown of the OK Gold. It is a conference that in so many ways is wide open. If you want to select 4, 5 teams in the Gold that could potentially emerge with a conference championship at the end of 2026, you could honestly do that. South Christian, Unity Christian, Zeeland West. It is one conference that we are going to be watching extremely close here this season, and obviously we broadcast for a lot of those teams as well, but graduating further on here into the OK conferences and taking a look at what this year is going to be, I wanted to touch on the OK Green here today. Now, there are a lot of really good teams in this conference. There are also some cellar dwellers as well that we'll talk about that are trying to, I guess, find their stride here this season, but much like I did for the OK Gold, I'm going to do the same thing here today. When you take a look at the OK Green Conference, before we get into the nitty-gritty of each team and what they do good and what they do bad and what they need to win here in 2026, from your opinion, and just looking at what this conference is right now, who emerges from the Gold this season? Or emerges from the Green, rather, this season?
That's a really good question. I look at this conference and it reminds me of 2015 to about early 2020s Big Ten East.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this. Yes.
I mean, you got the sweatshirt on today. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. It's
Yep.
like, who of those 3 teams are going to, come out of that? That's exactly what the OK Green reminds me of. You got Muskegon, Byron Center, Mona Shores. Those are the 3 teams that have a legit chance to come out and make a run. It's Muskegon and Byron Center. Those are kind of the 2 that I'm really focusing down and I'm looking at. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, Muskegon, they kind of had a little rough last couple of years. They haven't really been that dominant team that everybody is there on a Friday night. Everybody's trying to tune into. A couple of years ago, they missed the playoffs for the first time in what seems like our lifetime. Byron Center, though, they have been underdog, it feels like. I mean, they've been winning a lot of games, but they've been an underdog, and they've been right there. I think the natural reaction pick is going to be Muskegon, but I'm going to go with Byron Center here. I think Byron Center, this could be the year they finally get over the hump. They win the conference, and they can go on a little bit of a run here.
That's not controversial. I don't think there's anything remotely controversial about that. Once upon a time, yeah, it may have been a little bit, but not now, given what we've seen out of Byron Center the last couple of years. But let's start with the number one that most people in their right mind, when they look at Michigan high school football, go, this team is going to finish first in the conference, and that is Muskegon. I mean, they are it is, it's almost kind of a pick your poison when you look at the Big Reds year after year. And again, we talked about the shaky start to the season last year, the inability to finish, those things when it came to Muskegon. By the way, we have to get to Traverse City at some point because I've had a couple of TC Central people hitting me up lately, and obviously that's important when it comes to this story because of what happened to Muskegon last year. What are you seeing out of the Big Reds coming into 2026?
Well, I'm seeing a team that is 2 years removed from winning a state championship team. A lot of the guys that are going to be on that team this year were freshmen, sophomores. So they saw that. They saw, when they're young, they're like, okay, I want to get there. Okay, well, now you had a couple of bad years, or not necessarily bad, but not Muskegon football. That's bad for Muskegon football, So, you're looking at a team that took care of business where they needed to, as in Reese Puffer and Union, with 2 dominant wins last year. But you got a Mona Shores team that it's like that Penn State team. Like, if they come in, they have a really good night, they could upset you, so they got to stick strong through games like the Mona Shores, and they just got to finish business with Byron Center, and that's how they're going to get it done this year.
Once upon a time, comparing someone to James Franklin wouldn't have been considered an insult. However, in 2026, that may be. So we're not comparing anyone to James Franklin here on In the Huddle. However, Penn State is still a very good football program. I like Matt Campbell, too, by the way. I think he's really good head coach. I'm interested to see what he could do at Penn State. This is not a college football podcast, so let's march on. We'll talk maybe a little bit more about that as we get closer to the season. Number 2 on this list is the team that you opened up saying will probably win the conference, and that is Byron Center. They got to a state championship game in 2024. They lost to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And listen, that is a really hard school to play any year you want to play them. They're just so good in so many different ways. But this is a great team in the Grand Rapids area who has only continued to get better. They put up a really good fight against Hudsonville last year, who we know went on to go to a state championship game as well. They had a bad loss against East Kentwood, but it seems like in terms of the depth of a overall roster, when you look at the Grand Rapids area, Byron Center is very deep with what they have in terms of options going into this season. What do you see out of the Bulldogs? I know you already said they're going to win the conference championship, but what's your honest breakdown of what they're going to do this year?
I mean, what I see when I look at their schedule, especially last year, they're playing teams that aren't necessarily in the state of Michigan. And you don't see that a ton, especially around this Grand Rapids area. But, you kind of look at that and you wonder, you're like, okay, are they thinking that maybe the competition in West Michigan isn't as strong as they would like?
Ooh.
Are they thinking that some of these teams that they could schedule, that they're just going to go in there, drop a 60 burger and call it a night, So they're going down to Indiana, they're going down to Illinois, or they're coming up here and they're playing these teams. And now that I believe they split both interstate games last year, but no, going forward this year, I mean, it's really all eyes on that Muskegon game. And, if you can take care against Muskegon, you're most likely going to win the conference. That's going to set you up looking good for playoffs. Although the same thing, both schools are in the same division, right? So you're most likely going to have to face each other again some point in those first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Although with the seeding this year, that could really change some things up.
I will say sometimes playing teams that are outside of your area give you a better understanding of where to grow and in what areas to grow, especially teams that, again, are a little bit better than you, maybe to open the season. I talked about Kennewa Hills and opening the year against DeWitt. Do I think Kennewa is going to win that game? With all due respect, no, I don't think they're going to win that game. But what it will teach Kennewa is, again, those valuable lessons moving forward on how to win games. The best life advice I think I've ever gotten: surround yourself with people that are better than you, because that will give you an idea as to how to get better, right? On an individual basis and on a team basis as well. So I understand why Byron Center wants to test themselves early. Moving on
And
to
also it gives
no, go
them,
ahead.
yeah, sorry. It also gives them an idea of where they're at too.
Yeah.
Instead of like going in, you got one game against Muskegon and say you lose by 12. Well, okay. Now you've got probably 4 to 6 weeks to try to figure out how you're going to make those changes. Well, how about play a pretty good team around the Indianapolis area and figure it out now, and there's no harm, no foul there. It's just the only thing that affects is your win-loss record, right? So you go in, maybe you lose badly, but you figure out kind of some of the weak points and then kind of treat that as a mini Muskegon game, if you will.
I remember when I was in high school, and again, I don't want to wax poetic about my high school days. It's irrelevant. I don't really care. But if you go back to when I was there, what Dan Roan always did was he played against teams that we had no business playing against to open the season, whether it was Orchard Lake St. Mary's, whether it was Brabo Jesuit in Indianapolis. It was just whoever we wanted to open the year. We knew that we were probably going to get a nice little beatdown, but it taught us how to win against teams that were our similar size. So again, that could be a benefit to someone like Byron Center. Let's talk about Mona Shores a little bit. This is a program that, and I like the way that you kind of wrote this out, right? Because you put a lot of really good work into our preparation here today. And I'll just read off your first line: a program that has the right ideas, but just needs to come up big against the big teams, right? Muskegon, Byron Center. It seems like since the COVID year, Jackson, Mona Shores has been a little Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the results and what they've been able to do. It's not that they're not good. I mean, you made the comparison to open the show about the Big Ten, pre-2020. But what is it that Mona needs this season?
I mean, they need to come in big again. I mean, they had 2 really close losses against Muskegon and Byron Center last year. I mean, they need to just finish strong. They need to come up big. Now, I didn't watch any of those games last year, but I mean, that's just looking at paper. I mean, they just need to come in at those final minutes
Yeah.
against those teams. They need to not let down, and they just need to do what they do best. And that's uh, they did win a title during that COVID year. Now you can say what you will about that COVID year, but a title is a title at the end of the day, and it still hangs forever.
And looking at obviously the other Muskegon team in the area, I already made a video on Muskegon Reese Puffer. I already gave my honest interpretation of what this team and what this program is. And for the overwhelming majority of people, most people said, yeah, I mean, you make really good points with what it is that you're saying. We have been not that great the last 2 years. Again, coming off of back-to-back playoff appearances, just 4 wins in the last 2 seasons. It's hard to really forecast what a season is going to be for a program that is, again, just trying to find their center of balance. And that's what Reese Puffer is, competing in an area in Muskegon where, again, everybody is competitive. But let's not forget, Reese Puffer had their years. You go back to the 90s, they won a state championship. So it's not like they haven't been there before. Mind you, it's been about 30 years, 30 plus years since they've done it. But any takeaways on Reese Puffer and what you see from the Rockets?
I mean, you just got to try to close the gap this year.
Yeah.
Really, the only games you're winning right now is against Union, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But you got to close the gaps against those games that you should win, and then once you are winning those games that you should win, then you can start focusing on how to take down a Reese Puff, or sorry, a Muskegon, a Mona Shores, a Byron Center, right? You got to kind of start small and then work your way up. So, I it's there, obviously. I mean, you look down in the last couple of, like 5-10 years, and they have it there. They've done it before. Now, how are you gonna keep that going, right? You gotta try to make kids want to come to Reese Puffer, play football there. It's tough when you've got schools like Mona Shores and Muskegon right down the highway from you.
It's wild to me when we look at, as we wind our way towards the final two teams in the OK Green. When you look at someone like Forest Hills Northern, how is it that the games you win, you put up about 40 plus points, but you just can't find a way to stop the football? I mean, that has been the struggle for Forest Hills Northern. It certainly was last year. What's fascinating is that when they had over Northview at the end of the season, clearly they have quality. They're just in a hard conference, and you can see why that would be tough to navigate for Forest Hills Northern. Again, that's another team that I've seen up close and personal many a times in the Huskies. In Forest Hills, you got Northern, you got Eastern, you got Central. So you got the three different areas, and Northern in recent years has been maybe on the back end of those three. But what do you see out of Forest Hills Northern this season?
Well, I see that they are going to need to stop the football.
Yeah.
Clearly, offense is not a problem for them. So if they can find a way to even just slightly maybe average giving up 20 some odd points, I think that gives them a handful more wins. It's kind of a trend with the Forest Hill schools. You look at, I mean, Forest Hill Central is a very similar type of team to what Northern was last year. They give up a lot of points, but they
Yeah.
also score a lot of points at the same time. Unfortunately, you get stopped one or two times, you're kind of in that hole. So,
Yeah.
they are in a tough conference. They're kind of outside. They're pretty far away from a lot of their conference opponents too, which I'm sure probably doesn't help things either. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they come out. They haven't won a state title since 1978, and that was when the playoffs were only 3 rounds long. So we'll see.
Yeah, and while it used to be classified completely differently too, it was like A, B, and C. I mean, there were teams that were in certain classifications that were on the smaller end of that were like, I mean, I don't even know if we have a chance of going out and winning one. It's obviously far different now with the divisions. Getting
But I
into,
guess,
go ahead.
sorry, no, but I guess you can say they haven't won a trophy in a while, but can they count what Trinidad Chambliss did last year
Yeah,
in the play? I mean, he is
absolutely.
a Forest
Yeah,
Hills Northern alumni,
he
so I
came
guess you
from them.
could put that in there. Anyway.
Getting into the final team on this list, Grand Rapids Union. I've had a couple of people drop some comments in the comment section asking me to talk about GR Union. In Jackson, I have a special place in my heart when it comes to Union, only because when I was in high school, I swam. And the place that we used to practice all the time was Grand Rapids Union. Now, I don't know if they still have the swimming pool at Union. I'm not sure. But a lot of fond memories working out there during the winter in our two-a-days for swim, which was interesting. I also did a Red Hawk run. If you don't know what a Red Hawk run is, you essentially have to run through a bunch of snow in bare feet and nothing but your bathing suit,
Oh,
and then do a snow angel, and then run back inside and swim like 500 yards. So
why would you want to do that?
I don't know. It's mentally tough. I guess that's what it makes you. But no, here's the sports in so many ways is a perfect analogy for life. I feel as if there are multiple moments throughout the course of my life where I can look at a situation, no matter how good or how messed up it is, and use sports as an analogy to be like, okay, well, now it makes a lot more sense. In one of those analogies that I think of when I think of high school football in Grand Rapids Union, it is that unfortunately, sometimes the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And the best talent that we have comes from the latter half of that equation in the communities that don't necessarily, maybe all the times, have the resources that they need to recognize that talent. Some of the best athletes in our country, in our state, in our cities, sometimes are not recognized because they don't have that same window that everybody else has. You know, some people's window is the size of a door. Some people's window is the size of a people, the size of my camera that I'm talking through right now. And when it comes to Grand Rapids Union, and I'm not saying this facetiously, okay? I'm being dead honest when I say this. Some of the best athletes I've ever seen in any high school in Grand Rapids or in the state of Michigan. The only difference is coaching, resources, right? People making them a priority. We saw what happens when the investment is made at Grand Rapids Union, that they can win football games, that they can go toe to toe with the likes of Muskegon and some of these other programs in the state of Michigan. We've seen that before, right? So when it comes to Grand Rapids Union, yes, they've never won a district or a regional title or a state title in football. But if anyone from Union is watching this video right now, all I have to say is just go out and compete. It is inspirational to see players, brothers, family members who are willing to go compete on the field of play, realizing that, hey, you know what? Everything is stacked against us. And if I had the ability, if I had the means to go into a place like Grand Rapids Union and invest in those young athletes, I absolutely would. And to anyone that's watching this video right now, I would advise you do that if you have any interest in doing so, whether it be coaching, whether it be donating your time. There's a lot of options when it comes to a school like Grand Rapids Union. But this isn't to beat down on GR Union. This is just as a reminder that, again, the base, the talent, the potential, all of those things are there. Sometimes it just takes that extra little investment to get a school like that over the hump. Jackson, I don't know if you have any takeaways when it comes to Union. I just wanted to work that one in there because I know a couple of people wanted me to record this video. There are a lot of really good people at that school and a lot of really good athletes. You just need something magical sometimes to happen in order for it to become a consistent thing. It's not that I feel bad for Union at all. I want them to succeed. The only option for them though is to just go out and just continue to compete. That's the only option that you really have.
Yeah, and the thing you can take away from a team like Union is a lot of those kids that are on that team, they're in it because they want to be, right?
Yeah.
They want to be there, and although the outcome might not be there, they're still out there having fun. I mean, I know sometimes losing can wear on you sometimes, but they could come out, they could potentially upset or give a couple of teams a run for their money, right? They did it a couple of times last year, but it's they're in a tough area too. You got to think about some of the private schools that are surrounding them too, like a Catholic Central, like a West Catholic, or GR Christian as well. So it's tough to compete with those schools as well when you got those around you. But yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, they've got heart, and that's what matters.
The important thing is just to realize that we see you. We see your efforts. We see you guys playing. There's no team too good or too bad to warrant a mention on this show. We cover high school football in the state of Michigan, whether that be 8-man, whether that be Division 1, or whether you're up in Sault Ste. Marie or you're down in St. Joe's. It really does not matter to us whether or not you warrant a mention. And obviously a personal connection to Union was what kind of led me to talking about this. So to those who have commented about Grand Rapids Union, there you go. That's the video. And like I said, just go out and compete. Because I think just simply showing up and competing in those instances, guys, you've already won. Like beyond what the result says. The other team could beat you 100 and I don't care. I don't care. You showed up, you fought, you competed. That's more than what the majority of people would be willing to say. Oh, and by the way, you did the hard thing because no one wants to get their butt kicked. Okay, we're human beings. No one wants to do that, but you did it, and you went out and competed, and you put your body on the line. So, anyways, I know that's not a very who's their quarterback and who's their line. Like that's that. Sorry, Jackson, that seems completely irrelevant to me in certain instances, and it certainly does here. So, anyways, Union, good luck. Go out and compete. Jackson's putting his money, hypothetically speaking, on Byron Center to go out and win the gold. You know what? I agree. Let's go with the Bulldogs to win the green. I just want to stir the pot a little bit, see if anybody gets involved on this one. But anyways,
hey, the Muskegon folks have been quite vocal, so we'll see.
Yes, they love it. They love it and hate it at the same exact time. But anyways, that will wrap up another teaser episode of In the Huddle. Listen, guys, we are getting closer and closer to the regular season. Click the link in bio. Check out our other stuff on social media. Also, check out Jackson and myself on social media as well. We will continue to do more of these as we get closer to the season. And when we get to the season, we'll be bringing you, your coaches, other decision makers onto the show. And we have some opportunities in social media land as well. But again, the important word here is patience. Give us time. We will certainly get to you. But that wraps up another teaser episode of In the Huddle. Jackson, anything else to add before we sign off here?
No, sir. Go Bulldogs.
Go Dogs, I guess. We'll talk to you guys next time.